G'day everybody. Let's take a look at creating a form on a last. I've seen a few people do this. It's all pretty basic. You really just need to translate your three-dimensional last into two dimensions, and generally do that by covering it with tape. I haven't done this in quite a while. Let's see if I remember how to do it. I like to start at the top center, cut a piece that's symmetrical, and flop that over just to quickly define the top, because the top is the least accurate part of the last in some aspects, not in all. Concentrate on the outside. You get your outside nice and smooth, and the rest will go real nice. So I'll anchor it somewhere, and then I'll just force it round to wherever I want it. And you can spend as much time on this as you want. If you've never done this, then spend your time and get it as good as possible. You're gonna have wrinkles, and you honestly just want to put them in, fold them in, so that they're going to be strong and not move afterwards. And I've curled my tape. Blasted tape. One of the worst things about using large tape. And I just want a piece twice as long, and I'm gonna, can't see what I'm doing. I'm just measuring out a length that I think is ample, and then I'm doubling it, and then I'm ripping it off. I'm putting the half side that I measured just overlapping a little bit. Alright, and you can see that this part of the last, the quarter side, is mostly flat, and so this is where you start slapping down large swaths of tape, because it just works, you know. You want to try and get that stuff flat, and you just sort of rub it in, and it'll come down beautifully flat. And the trick is, sometimes if you handle your tape too much, the oils from your fingers will contaminate the glue, and it won't stick so well. So you want to try not to. I'm doing a terrible job of this. Try not to touch the sticky side of the tape as much as possible. Getting the flat side in. I've got a huge excess here, and I'm just going to flatten it off a bit. Flatten it off a bit. And yeah, I'm just going to, let me just smush it down. Alright. So that's two pieces of tape. We've got 80% of the last covered already, which is brilliant. So fast. I learnt to do this in a factory, and I had to learn how to do this fast and accurate, and I mean really accurate. We're not even at the accurate. This is just the slap it down. Get out of the camera shot. So you always start at the flat point, because there's a lot of shape. You can slide it along the edge, and then just wrap it around there. Alright. And then you just press in the arch a little bit, because the arch is one of those places, you know. But you just want to mold that in, press it over, mold it down. Got a wrinkle in here, but it doesn't matter, it's a small one. A little thing going on here. probably cut that off, but I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to smooth it down. Alright. You want to do this fast, you want to use your whole hand. Alright. One motion you can basically finish a whole section. Right, okay. Now you can see that I've covered in one layer of tape very quickly the whole back, the whole cone, right? The only thing we got left is the toe. But this is where the compound curves kicks into a different curve. We've got this curve going on and this curve. So just get a width and drop it in the center. Smooth it out. You want to try and you should be able to get this dead flat without that wrinkle in it. You just smooth it down and a little bit of pulling, a little bit of stretching. Just stretch that bugger over. And bang. 2 more pieces. We're almost done. Was I too short? A little bit. Missed a tiny bit there, but that's alright. I've missed this too, so I'll cover it up now. Fold it over and then just swish it over. Beautiful, look at that. Alright, we've got the inside done. Just got this little bit at the toe, and this is going to be a bit of a problem because there's a lot of shape in this. But we'll get it. Come across the front, because that'll just, you can see how that is definitely an angle that we want to capture here. So do a little something like this, and then all this can just whatever, doesn't matter, you know. Now I've done 1,000 of these, so I'm not particularly worried from this point on. But if you've never done one of these before, or you've only done a couple and you think you've still got a lot more to learn, then take your time at this step, right? Perhaps consider reinforcing this with another layer so that when you remove it from the last, the tape doesn't deform. Do I have a rasp? I don't think I've got a rasp appropriate to actually do that, but you want to trim off whatever excess you have. And you can use a file. I don't have one at the moment. So, just going to do it the bodgiest way I can think of, because I couldn't be bothered. Well, I probably should. Just cut the bloody thing. I cannot see a thing in this setup. This setup is terrible. A couple north. It helps to clean up the bottom feather line. This is a feather line I'm going around. Just so that you can see the true shape of the last underneath without the I'm getting old and blind. Without the tape distorting the shape. Because I try to do a lot of the things on this process by eye, if that makes sense, so that, you know, it's quicker. Alright, that's about it. Alright, it's slap happy. Do the same thing around the top, clean the top up. Again, there's a little crescent shape here that you want to actually, the only information that you're really trying to capture. And on some lasts it's honestly beat up and damaged beyond recognition. So a lot of the time you just have to guess and just cut this crescent shape in. Focus. Darn camera. Alright, so this crescent shape at the top of the forefoot or the cone. Gee, I haven't done this in ages and I'm doing this cold. This is terrible. But, you know, I had a lot of practice, so I'm hoping this will be useful. Let's just cut this top bit. This is pretty chunky. You can't see anything I'm doing. Okay, so I've cleaned the top, cleaned the bottom, cleaned the feather line. Let's zoom out a little bit. Alright, we've got to clean last. Clean formal. Right, now for the pencil work. Center line. I got a nice pencil here I've modified. Actually so that I can better align it along the side of a sheet and get a right angle. I've just skived off one side of the pencil to create a bit of a cheap tool basically. But anyway, it's just a standard 2B pencil. Crumbs, where did I even get this in? Not important. Find your center. The best way to find your center is to look down the cone. And from the cone you can see the spring, and this spring is going to be dead center, alright? And if you project that line, it will go all the way to the center of the thing. The other way to determine the center is to bisect all these curves, right? So there's a crescent here which denotes the top of the last, and so if you split it in half and use this slot as a guide, you should get perfect center on that, right? And I actually look down this way, so through the camera you're foreshortening the distance that you're actually sighting down, which gives you increased accuracy, a bit like a gun sight, well, literally like a gun sight, because you're looking down it, right? So you create a mark at the top, and then this one's probably the second easiest center line to find, because you're basically doing the same thing. And let's just do that, hopefully so that you can see it. Tilt it up. Alright, so you've got your line here, through the center, and then it should look symmetrical. And this is where an artistic eye comes in. Before I started pattern making, I did a lot of drawing. Not very great drawing, but you know, stuff good enough for this. Right? So you put this in by hand because this is a 3D shape. You can use rulers, you can use all sorts of things, but this is the fastest way, and honestly it's as accurate as anything else if you've had a bit of practice. Alright, so for the bottom of the heel, right, turn it over, because you think of this as a perfect circle, right? And it's a perfect semicircle. So if we've got a perfect semicircle, then we can divide that perfect semicircle into quarters, and basically in the quarter of that right? And this way you want to foreshorten the other way and look down the tread and find the top of the hill or the center of the thing, the center of the curve, apex of the curve. It's probably better mathematical language that I don't really care. Alright, and this one's going to be tricky because your eye is going to be thrown off by this curve, but you really want to look for the center wide points. Right, and it's about here somewhere. It's probably right in between those two marks I've just made. But honestly, as long as you're accurate within a few millimeters, it doesn't matter. So as long as you're relatively accurate, if you can get very accurate, then that'll impress your shoot pattern cutting friends. But other than that, it's mainly from your diminishing returns. So the best way to join these marks up is with a dotted line. So mark the center. And again, I'm looking down this way, like this. And I'm looking down the apex. And I'm doing this more for demonstration, so God, I can hardly see this in this light to frame it up for you. But basically put a dotted line in using foreshortening along that line. And you do the same thing for the toe, right? And you find the big knuckles, all right? There is a long side and a short side, so you have to allow for that. Look for the peaks on the curve at the actual peak and try to divide that up as best you can by eye, right? And just put a mark from the bottom, right? And then double check the front and back mark by the foreshortening the same way, alright? You stick your finger up to see where it roughly is and sort of tilt down. The curve of the lace, you should see it, but you can sort of line it up and it should line up within roughly the center of the tread. And then you do the same thing on the top. Go back to the original mark, look down the toe and find the center apex of this curve and mark it in. And while I'm here, I'm going to dot up a little bit because this is a concave portion. You can't really see things. And the more foreshortening that you can look down, the more accurate this will be. And that's just a manual way to get a relatively amazingly straight line without pulling out tools and rulers and trying to line up a piece of tape, which honestly, lining a piece of tape up on a straight line on a curve, and this is a compound curve, it's not especially easy, and that's really all you need. You can just tidy it up. I haven't really done this in quite a few years, so rusty, but yeah. So you get your center line, and that's what you got to worry about. You're done. Tidy it up a little bit, straighten it up, bold it in a little bit. You got your thing. Right, and most people want to make it dirty. Okay, so the first thing you got to look at when you're drawing your pattern on here is the ankle. Alright, this has no indication in any way, shape or form where your ankle is or should be. And I'm going to have to pause the video